Covering. The film that you will get with the kit, they're using Aura cover, and you don't get these instructions with it. They give you instructions in the book, which is here. They do not a bad job of it, actually. All you got to do is just do what it says in the book. And if you happen to buy some Aura cover, which I did, and the reason I did it was because I wanted my SE5a to be green. I didn't want it to be red. They give you green for the wings, of course, but I didn't want the fuselage to be red. I wanted it to be all the same colour because generally that's what they were. So that's my personal decision. But they use Aura cover, and when you buy a roll of Aura cover, you get the instructions with it. So there's the instructions. It's actually quite lengthy, so all you've got to do is follow those instructions. They also give you the instructions in the book, as I previously mentioned. This is one of the ailerons. Now here's the thing, I can't rightly do this on video because the camera's in the way. I need my space. But what I generally do is this. I take my iron. You can use a household iron if you want to, but I recommend you get one of these. It'll save you a lot of time and effort. Use some nice new closed pegs, hold it into place, and then just tack it in the middle to the end on one edge, and then pull it over. Put your move the closed pegs to wherever you need it to. Do the other side from the middle out. Okay, tack it in, and then just go around the corners, but do not shrink your film just yet. Get your green side and do it all over again. Once you have both sides on, then you can afford to put your heat gun on it. Now this is the heat gun I'm using. This is normally used for decorating and stripping paint and everything else. There's two settings. I would not put it on the second setting. I'd only use the first setting, and then even then I wear a glove so I don't burn my hand when I'm holding the other part, and that's where you're going to come unstuck if you're not used to doing this. Wear a glove because you're going to burn your hand. Okay, and once you've got it all covered there and you've got it all covered there, then you can blow the heat gun on it and it will shrink and you'll get quite a nice effect. Then you go back with your iron, just go over it, make sure it's all stuck on, and it will come out right. It's actually, this film is quite good. If I'm being honest, I'm quite surprised how good it is. Obviously, where you've got to stick the fin down, you want to cut that bit of film out quite carefully, both sides, so that when it slots into the fuselage, you can put some glue on it and it will stay where it's supposed to go. Like I've always said with mod, I don't like covering, I don't enjoy it, I'm not particularly great at it. And even if I was great at it, I just don't enjoy it. I never have. I can't quantify it. Doesn't mean to say you won't enjoy it. I'm pretty sure you will. But the only thing is, you've got to be careful when covering because it's the final effect and what shows off your model. It doesn't matter how clever and how many, you know, these electronic devices you put in it. If the covering don't look right, it spoils the whole model. But what you have got to be careful of is warping the wing. You have to do both sides at the same time. So you put the film on. Obviously this is separate to this, so you do these separately. Both sides, tack it on, and then use the heat gun and do both sides, do this bit and then do this bit and then go back to this bit and this bit, and it will shrink. It'll go like a drum, literally. Okay, but if you don't do it equally, you run the risk of warping the wing. It bends it, and it will affect the flight characteristics of the model quite badly if you don't keep on top of that. If you do find you get a bit of a warp in it, the best thing to do is, if it's warping this way, turn it over and put some heat using the iron on this side, and it will bring the warp back. It'll take the warp out. So obviously if it's bending up, turn it over, shrink it, it'll come back. And obviously you need to put a little bit of a gentle bending using your hands. You don't want too hard because you'll just break the internals of the balsa. So as I said, I don't want to harp on about covering. It's not my thing. If you're really scared and you know about attempting it, then there's plenty of channels out there, usually Americans, but it's not difficult to do. I just don't enjoy doing it. That's me. That's the way I'm built. And obviously when you've got both of these skinned up, don't forget you've got to run your knife where the hinges are going to go. Put your hinges in, okay, both sides, yeah, which is what I've done here. Okay, and I'll come back to the hinges later because I don't want to glue these in place just yet, until I've got everything all trimmed out and done and everything. Then I'll come back to that. Please remember, you will have a slot for your horn that's got to go in there, which makes the elevators do that basically. And that, looking from the back, is on the left hand side, and of course your rudder is on the right hand side. And if you've been watching previous videos I've made of this, I've marked them on the servos so that if I forget, which I generally do because I'm an old git, they're already marked. And I can't stress this enough: mark things, put a label on them. You will forget. So I will come back to you after I've got all this covered. It's going to take me a little while to do, and I'm not going to do a fast forward on it and put music on because I keep getting told off for, you can't hear that, I don't want to know. So anyway, there you go, and it'll all come out in the editing, I guess. Bye for now. Well, I have this wing covered, and all I need to do is just put the control rod in here between these 2 points. I have to say that it's not been without its frustrations. I really don't like covering. I've covered this wing a minimum of 3 times and I really don't enjoy it, but it's covered and it's flat. If you get a warp in the wing, there's only one way to get it out, and that is to twist the wing. You hold it either side, and I'm not going to do it now because I've just got the twist out of it. You twist it in opposite directions, and the side that let's say this is the back end is tilting up. What you do, you twist that so that this end goes towards you, holding that firmly between your knees, unless you've got an understanding wife, and you put the hot iron. It'll cause wrinkles here, and you put the hot iron on to take the wrinkles out. And you may need to get the hot iron a little hotter, but not so hot that it's going to bubble it all up. And you take the wrinkles out, and then you lay it flat and you check it, and when it's flat you stop. Don't matter what's going on here. Or you stop, and it's flat and it's covered and it's stretched. And if you're not into covering, which I'm not, it works. Now that might look a little bit up here, but that's because I've got a control horn here. So when I laid it flat, I took the aileron off I uncovered the servo, left the servo in, but I pushed the control horn down flat, and then that wing was flat. So if it doesn't look flat there, it's because there's a control horn there. Okay, so this is more or less what you're going to do. I mean, I had to replace this 3 times, this 4 times. I replaced this part here. I don't like doing it. I get no enjoyment out of it whatsoever. But that's what your wing will look like. And this is the part here that goes into the fuselage. And you have to keep this as much as you can expose the wood. So you can put some glue on there and put it into the fuzz and glue it in place. But the instructions, follow the instructions in the manual. They are pretty good, I have to admit, and that will help you get through. I was sort of show you my failures. You know, I've got all this. I've got to replace all this. It's just come out wrong. You know, I could have sanded down a little bit more. So yeah, I've got to take this aileron apart and everything and lay it flat and recover this. It's pointless rushing it, and it's pointless doing half a job, because if you've got a warp in the wing, which this has, I can clearly see it. You know, it's which way is this got to go? It's got to go that way. So I've got to hold it that way, like that. Yeah. And then take the wrinkles out from the bottom. Is it? No. I've got to hold it that way, take the wrinkles at the top. So just concentrate on what you're doing. And of course I'm going to redo this bit because it hasn't quite taken there. And the reason it hasn't quite taken there is because I don't think I stretched it enough. You've got to leave it 20 mil, 30 mil. Really stretch it, and yeah, you've got to put the heat gun on, and you really got to get that glue wet and let it stick. Otherwise it's going to pull off. If you start adding bits on, you're just going to get nowhere, so you're better off just cutting it out and doing it again. You could strip the whole wing down if you wanted to, but I've elected not to. I was, you know, somebody said to me recently, a modeller who I deeply respect, been modelling for about 50 years, a nice old bloke called Kev, and he said to me, well, the professionals will spend just as long covering as they do in making the model. And I'm beginning to know why. I do not like covering. Anyway, so it should look something like this. And there's going to be some people out there that goes, oh, that's rubbish, that is. Yes, I know it's rubbish. You don't need to tell me. I already know. Okay? All right, I had brothers. Just get on with your life. Thank you. So, right now, we've reached a bit of an impasse because despite the instructions in the manual, there's not enough covering to do the underneath of the wings or the underneath of the fuselage. In other words, I've run out. So I have some on order and it should be here this afternoon. So in the meantime, I've taken the imitation leather that they supplied. It's way too wide, so I just cut it in half, put it around here, trimmed it to length, put some sino on this side, let it go off, carefully put some on the inside, let that go off, and you're going to get it all over your fingers. There is a headrest that goes on here which I've painted. That's just waiting to dry now, so that can go on. And as previously made, the visor or the windscreen, if you like, that can go on. And I've put the tail on temporarily just to make it look like something. Now when you're covering the fuselage, which to be honest, I've only really done it because I've run out of cream, so I've used up the green to do the fuselage rather than, well, twiddling my thumbs really. Now the trick to this is they give you a template which kind of does and doesn't work. You have to, if you cut out their templates, cut them way oversized, because after you've covered this headrest here, there's nothing underneath, so you have to put the next sheet and iron it on to the headrest. They don't make it big enough to reach below this point here, which is the solid bit, so make it bigger than what you need. Now what I did, I just tacked it along all the way along here. Well, actually I tacked it along the spine. You can't really tack it there very well. Tacked it along here and here, then tacked it ever so gently here so it's slightly baggy. Then you get your heat gun and you put your heat gun on it longer than what you think you need to, and it will shrink into shape, and then go around it again with your heat gun, with your iron. And it's the same with doing the body. I don't know, yeah, you can just about see this line here, and I used their template but I cut it oversized, so I just tacked it in between the struts, tacked it around the sides there, put the heat gun on it, it shrank right down and was over the top with the iron, and then you get a nice smooth, more professional looking look to it. I suppose for the more daring you could do this side in one sheet. I don't know if I'd recommend it or not, but you know, that's up to you. And then you get the paper control panel. Needless to say, the pilot they give you, this is what I started earlier, doesn't fit, so you have to cut the arms off to make it sit inside, and even then it's probably a little bit on the big side. Now this comes unpainted, and I've only just started this, so what I did was, while I'm waiting for the coverings to arrive, is start painting the pilot. Now my trick with pilots is to use oils. I bought a second-hand set on eBay for 35 quid. It's got everything with it. All you need is some turpentine and just to clean your brushes. So what I've done here to get this effect is, now you have to remember that with the leather jackets of the period, they were not dark brown, they were like a tan, because in those days people still used chemicals and so forth, and used to have tanners, and it would come out this sort of bronzy sort of colour, which is the correct colour. Apply it with a brush, get yourself a washing up sponge, and then dab it, and you get this realistic effect on the leather work. The only drawback is, as you can probably see from my fingers, it takes 24 hours, maybe 48 hours for this to totally dry. But the good news is with oils is you can mix them readily, get all sorts of different shades. You haven't got to mess around with the acrylics and so forth. The only drawback with that is that, you know, you have to clean everything with turpentine, but hey, I'm willing to put up with that. The skin tone is little brown ochre. Put some cream in it, put it straight on, works first go. I'm going to highlight the face and everything else, and for the goggles I'm going to get some silver foil, and I'm going to put some silver foil inside the goggles, and when everything's dry and gone off, I'm going to put some epoxy resin in there to give it a glass effect. And there you go.